Okay, so we're going to start with a crash course in Canadian politics for those of you who need a little refresher, because I sure did. The Canadian government is split up into 3 levels. At the very bottom, you have the municipal government that deals with cities. One step above that is the provincial government that deals with the entire province. And then at the very top, you have the federal government, which deals with the entire nation. Because of tomorrow's upcoming federal election, we're only going to dive into the federal government. The federal government is divided up into 3 branches so that no one group has all of the power. You have the legislative branch, the lawmakers, the executive branch, the law enforcers, and the judicial branch, the law judgers. We're going to start with the legislative branch because that's basically what we're creating when we go to vote tomorrow. It's split up into 3 more branches known as the Canadian Parliament, the House of Commons, the Senate, and the Sovereign, which is the King or Queen, in our case, the Queen. Within the House of Commons, there are 338 seats. We, the voting population of Canada, decides who gets those seats by voting for elected politicians. These elected politicians then become our members of parliament, or MPs for short, and their responsibility is to create legislation. It's important to note that we don't ever directly vote for the Prime Minister. We're voting for a party who has chosen who their leader is going to be by an internal election. The Senate is responsible for approving or vetoing these legislations before they become law. It's a group made up of 105 senators who are chosen by the Prime Minister, not elected by the population. These old dudes have the job until they're 75 and can pretty much only get fired if they get caught taking bribes. So I'd say that this is the least democratic part of the government. The Queen is pretty straightforward. We all know who she is. If you don't, pick up a Canadian coin and look at the face side. She's much older than she was when her coin stamp was first created. Plus, she can't be here in Canada, so she allocates her duty of giving her royal approval to the Governor General. Right now, it's a woman named Julie Payette. Now, Canada gained its independence from British rule in 1867, and we are now under a constitutional monarchy, which means the Governor General has symbolic power, but really no actual power. Plus, they think the Queen has learned her lesson when it comes to denying power to a country under British rule, and if you don't really know what I'm talking about, just look up what happened between India and England. So focusing in on the House of Commons, every 4 years Canadians vote in a federal election. The political party with the majority of the seats in the House of Commons, at least 170, form the Government of Canada, and the leader of that party then becomes the Prime Minister. The party with the second highest number of seats forms the official opposition. Each of the 338 seats in the House of Commons represents a geographic region in Canada representing a roughly equal population percentage to best ensure a proportionate representation of the nation. It's argued that it hasn't really been done correctly and we're not accurately represented, but that's for another day. What we are voting for is for our district's MP to represent us in the House of Commons, the place where they make laws for us to follow. So that's why it's really important to exercise your vote. So get out there tomorrow. The federal government is in charge of mail, taxes, money, banking, shipping, railways, pipelines, telephones, criminal law, foreign affairs, national defense, employment insurance, and Aboriginal lands and rights. I also just want to quickly explain the concept of a minority government because honestly, the way the polls are going now, it's definitely a possibility. A minority government is formed if the party that wins the most votes still has less than 170 seats in the House of Commons. Sure, the party's leader will still become the Prime Minister because they had the highest number of votes, but without the majority of the seats in the House of Commons, they risk being outvoted every time there is debate over legislature. Because remember, a seat basically equals a vote. If the party in power ever loses a vote on legislation, any other party can call for a vote of non-confidence, which basically means that they think the party isn't strong enough to lead the nation and a re-election is definitely possible. However, elections are extremely expensive, so solutions are looked at in order to prevent it from getting to that point. One solution is a coalition government. In this case, the winning party would choose another party to govern with them, and that selected party would then have members in the Prime Minister's cabinet, which is part of the second branch of government, the executive branch. It's really important to know this point because if you're thinking about voting for a party that isn't anywhere close to first or second place in the race for Prime Minister, whoever gets third place still has a good chance of being in power and having an impact when it comes to making decisions. So it's important to note, especially for those people who think that voting for a party that's not anywhere close to first place is just burning your vote, because like it's really not true, especially in the case of a minority government. So that's basically the Canadian federal government in a nutshell. The next few videos are outlining each political party and then their stance on certain issues, so definitely check those out. And remember, please go out and vote tomorrow if you are able to.